In places like these, one thing that mind suffers is lack of spikes. There's a roundness in the flow of energy here. We intend to see, in collaboration with this atmosphere, further and beyond, on the idea of what is music.
Ми просто постояли, остили і тому.
In one way, there is no answer. There cannot be an answer, a definite one. But the fact that we spend a lifetime pursuing this phenomena called music calls for an inquiry. And somehow, when you live it on day-to-day basis, it comes as a flow. This inquiry and the further revelation of it, that what is music, comes mostly as a flow. Not really you saying it, but it's just starts flowing, and you become a witness to this whole monologue, which is already out in the ether, and it transmits through you. The essence of music, even at its surface, just music at its surface, is much deeper than words. We have positioned ourselves as fools to even attempt to approach it intellectually. But just for the inquisitors, I think we will be pardoned to put some matter as an adequate alliteration to the same idea which has been pondered over for many times. Music is the frontier of all the lives that we perceive through our inutile senses. Music is the frontier of that. It's the highest of the lives. Music, just like as we sit on this cliff, is an extended edge of the cliff that unrolls itself up to your capacity to take on the fear of walking it as it unrolls itself over this abyss of the truth. Music is the guardian of silence. At the periphery of sound and silence, if you walk far enough to reach that horizon, ever, you will see music as an entity itself sitting there as the guardian. to usher you in or to tell you that you are not yet ready to take that silence. If it ushers you in, you walk on its wake as it swims through that huge ocean, vast endless ocean of silence. Only way you can go in as a piece of phenomenon is to walk on the wake of music. The closest experience, I will say it more simply, of the nothingness is that when you meander on the edge of the purest form of music that you can create. You are exposed to a truth, whereas the path is again a figment of lie. That's music. But also to understand music in a different way is that music comprises of notes, sounds. Do you know what those sounds are? Those notes are. Imagine that there's an unreachable ocean. You stand on the edge of it, but you can't really reach and dip your fingers into that ocean. But there's a mist, there's a spray, there are bubbles. That note, that sound of note, is a bubble that not just rises to the surface of the ocean but carries on. And within it, within the bubble, is the freshest, the purest of something from the depth of that ocean, which can only soar into our existential plane within that shell of bubble. That's sound, that's musical sound. Not every sound will be rich with that, the deep. When there's no purity in that note, the bubble does not really, first of all, it doesn't carry on beyond the surface. And even if it does, the inside of it is vacuous. That's why there's a pursuit of a purer sound, especially in some older traditions. When we go further on those traditions, silence in music becomes inclusive. But there is an elevation before that happens. There's a transcendence. Because what music is just as deep as the perceiver is. Music is the small little ion which is powerful, and it goes in you chamber by chamber. There's a chamber of joy, there's a chamber of pleasure, there's chamber of feelings, there's chamber of more and more. Just as many chambers you have locked within you, that ion can travel and travel and travel. And there's a receptor in the deepest of you, that where then photon that is placed on that refracts in multitudes of your existence. Just like a ray in a diamond gets trapped and then it glitters on all edges of it. But it will have that impact only once you have deepened yourself. What I have said so far is a very it's a sharp edge approach, a little bit more from an intellectual perspective. And I will not hesitate that music is just another thing that we have in this plane of reality, which is at first place manipulatable, but there's obviously it has it's like a wormhole to that beyond. Now I will talk of music as a musician, as somebody who feels it every day, more emotionally. And I will start by saying that music are the arteries of the essence of this existence that flows further into its extensions to nourish them. There's an essence and a sense, and how do they actually take care of each other is through these arteries. And the problem with this universe is that this universe writes beautiful letters to itself, and it takes help of somebody who has refined its sensitivities to the extent where it can first write a letter and then read it to itself with that much sensitivity. But universe writes beautiful letters of unconnotable, unconceptualizable love and emotions, deeper emotions. Like love also passes into a very shallow layer when we talk of the emotions that music can create in you. And then those emotions are so precise, not vague, they're precise, that you cannot really come back and once it has already has created an impact on you, to really now categorize into a specific emotion that you feel on everyday basis. But deeper music creates that kind of emotion. Music happens only in a purest state of being. Music only happens. Music is an celebration, is an posthumous song, a celebration of a farewell song to your ego.
Yeah.
Then it really makes sense to you. Music is also like a grin of a all-knowing entity behind the curtain of sound. It's an all-knowing entity that knows everything, and it very mischievously grins at you behind these veil of sound. Lots of sound, and suddenly you get a sense, oh, you are looking at me, and I know what you know now. For a moment, you get a sense that you can see it. And it's a grin that very mischievous, not like music happens not as that, it does not reveal that entity as a higher lower, but at the same level where it's very mischievously grinning at you, that you see that kind of. I have not really talked about tal, sur, le, rhythm, melodies, counterpoint, harmonies. That's not music. Those are the vessels of music. Those are the vessels. That's not music. Music is behind the curtain of sound. Music is the flavor in the mist of sound. Music is the coolness, the wetness of it. Music is the bright and the light. It's not really the light, but it's the bright and the light. Music is essentially the soul of the soul. It's very fine, but you have to go that fine. I speak so clearly of this because it's more so flow. This is not a hypothesis. This is so true that even evidence cannot really be of any significance here. If you can feel it, you will know it. And music should be approached from that kind of depth and seriousness. Music has to be understood as the, so far, for me, the only way to really see yourselves, your extension into everything beyond, not just here but into beyond. I will I've spent many years doing music. I will spend many lifetimes doing music if there is a case of that sort. And I have one aim, to reach a point of no return in music, where I'm helplessly on the other side of it, to never come back. There's some kind of a chain, a material elastic chain that pulls me back. But I have had very profound experiences only through music. I know there's many paths to the top of the mountain. There's not one. But I have great confidence through my knowing on music that music can lead you to enlightenment and beyond. Perhaps that's it. What do you think, sir?
I think one thing that you said really stood out with me, and I was thinking about it, which is music lies at that periphery of sound and silence, and it's the I think of it in similar lines. I think it's our pursuit of beauty through sound.
Yes, sir. Very eloquent. Sublime, the beauty, the true beauty is that which invigorates the silence in you.
Mm.
Something which just astonishes you to the extent that an overwhelming silence just takes over. You are frozen. That's beauty. Human experience of beauty can be very profound.
Mm.
Beauty is haunting, deadly, devastating. And it just leaves you in this wonderment and awe. Not really with a significant answer to what is the experience, not a name for it. And music is one of the pursuits of mankind, to be consistently in audience, be a witness to that. truth and beauty. Truth and beauty. A musician stands on the confluence of both. A musician takes a dive where there's a confluence of both.
Beauty is a medium to truth.
Beauty is a bait to truth.
A bait. It's beautifully put.
Beauty is something that entices you, spellbounds you. It's like siren. You know, on the island of truth, a beautiful song attracts the voyagers, the sailors, and you are lured to that island of truth. And truth just engulfs you. These are very fatal, lethal ideas. Beauty and truth. They just signify a death, a situation where there's, in its highest, in its utmost, is this, you know, suddenly this was life and this is death, and now you're in face with this death. But you are also, it is you are like a coin. One side of you is life and one side of you is death.
Yeah.
Life is still happening. There's existence. Earlier you were exposed to this existence as a life which comes with all the programming, all the mechanisms, all the automations. And suddenly when you're transcended into this piece of absolute truth and beauty, you have this kind of perspective towards everything, that you are dead, but everything around you is alive. But you are not really having a survival based experience of that, but you have gone beyond the survival part of it. It's difficult. All transformations are difficult. All transformations are through a very narrow tunnel where you have to rub against the walls of it. You have to break your shoulder bones at times just to pass through that narrowness. You have to squeeze yourself through. You have to drop all the baggage. And you have to really just allow the very essence of you to remain and everything go. Then that tunnel leads you to the other side of it. Otherwise, if you start, you cannot stop because you will be stuck in a tunnel. And some people are destined to that very difficult fate that they start and they have no choice. They can't go back to this world. They have to go to the other world. And they're in a tunnel. The tunnel gets narrower and narrower and narrower. And then they have to decide, you want that to carry on. If you want to, then you have to drop things. Your egos, everything. At that point, people start just losing whatever made them to continue in the beginning. So that's very difficult, and I see that so much, that people are really excited in the beginning, but when they realize that this is the cost, that's where they're stuck. And just the enormous pressure of this journey makes rather something very counterintuitive of them, which you would expect people to be nicer, but they become very resentful because they're stuck in a tunnel. They're neither this way nor that way. That happens so much. Pursuit of truth and beauty is very difficult. These are lethal, fatal paths. You never go to the other side alive. As the one who actually started the journey is never there. Something else makes it on the other side, but not the one who starts. So these are posthumous rewards. There are posthumous rewards. But a musician can be an entertainer, can be in service to human minds, or can be in service to the truth. Musician can be somebody who starts and just stops somewhere in the tunnel, or musician can be somebody who is so much in love with the truth of music that in that sheer madness continues, in that sheer excitement carries on to follow that one little iron of spark of hope. Sometimes even in the dark, just the flavor on the tongue of the soul makes you continue. Being a musician is a tough thing, and when I speak differently than what musicians are taught. I speak of a musician who is seeking the ultimate, and that's who a musician should be. There's no bargain less than that. There's nothing else in life. You live, you die, and then one day you die. In between, there are experiences that allows you to see that what is the ultimate truth of you. That's why we are sent here. That's why consciousness happens. And one must try everything possible. It is rather a duty to do everything possible to realize that. What say you, sir?
I say we are, we are helpless in the pursuit of beauty. I think there's no choice but to pursue it. So the destination is pretty much set in, it's there for those who want to take it, pursue it, and not settle for the in-between views that you get, but actually reach the mountaintop and see the full vista.
Yeah, the point of no return.
Yeah.
And we are definitely helpless. One thing pulls us is beauty, one thing pushes us is disgust and the horror.
Yeah.
And we are travelers of this sort of a journey. And in fact, we travel as whole. We mostly travel as whole. One person who reaches the Piedmont has also somehow created an impact, a wake, a path, a pull for rest. Because when you fall, even a drop in the ocean, the level of ocean rises. It's now, if something drops to a fraction, ocean is now closer.
Yeah.
It rises. It's more reachable. So not just to serve yourself,
But the entire cause.
but there's just one. There's nothing else. But just a realization, like all of this reaching, going, that is happening right now, right here. It's not really a geographical transversing. It's not geographical. It's like when we say reach here, to realize in you, to know, just to know. The entire journey is just on the path of knowing, realizing, feeling, eventually feeling. What we say, whatever we say, and whatever I have said about music, if there's these things will only make sense once you are at a certain level on this path. From the bottom, it's so shaded in clouds and all that. It's not really rational, and there can be enormous contradictions in you when I say this, but you must carry on to see. There can be enormous antithesis on that. That this is just a imaginative idea. This is just a hypothesis. If this is hypothesis, everything is. I've started with that music is the highest of lies. If you pursue lie, All we have pursued so far is lie. If you pursue power, that's a lie. Money, that's a lie. Things, lie. So if you are really in pursuit of something, and if all we have, all the power we have is to pursue a lie, it will be smarter to pursue the highest of the lies. Why so lowly in your pursuits? Why so miserly in your pursuits? Pursue the highest. And all ideas, either intellectual, either emotional, or either spiritual, very confidently and very easily points towards art as being the highest.
Yeah.
As the highest. So you really, if you really want to do your own research and conclude something, that's fine. If you want to just start there, that okay, let's find out, everything says art, and I have been blessed with little bit interest and little bit attraction towards art and maybe music or whatever, subtler things, subtler, finer, logicless, meaningless things, things about feelings, art, abstract art. Let's pursue that. Let's die. Let's just try our best. Otherwise, we are always here, just going in a cycle. Last thing is that music is a very if music is an entity, a thing, it has a will of its own. I play sitar, I listen to music, same recording. Someday it's there, and someday it's not there. Somebody say it's a mental state situation, how you're feeling that day. I've tried that, I've seen, I've meditated, I've done that. My mental state is fine to my own understanding. But still, sometimes music is not there. Sometimes it's not as profound. Sometimes it's there, but it leads you just deep enough that you know that you're knee deep. It's there, but it's not. It has its own will. It's a living thing, and you have to win its confidence. You have to continue. You have to prove yourself a very sincere, faithful lover. A lover, more of a servant cater kind of a relation to it. So humility, devotion, dedication, and most importantly, the highest of all heroic attributes that you can name, the highest of all that music demands at the first step and always at every step, the highest quality, heroic quality, which is at least now so rare, is sacrifice. Because you can never present the adequate amount of value to strike a deal with music. You have to put everything on the balance, and still music will be heavier. You put everything, your life and everything, hence you must sacrifice. Music is in path of riyaz, practice and all that. Part of any deep art is sacrifice. So, and music has a will of its own. You bow to it. You, despite me calling it a lie, still it's higher than your ego. In the whole hierarchy of lies, your ego is the lowest, and music is the highest. So, with that frame, you start there, with your head down in obeisance for an entirety, and then you talk, and then perhaps there's hope.